Welcome to the Wellness Pulse with Monica Stevens. From CPR to self care, staying in rhythm with your well being. Thanks for tuning in.
Like you just said, my name's Rob Kalmowitz, and as I mentioned already, I'm from New Jersey. Right now, I'm 55 years old. I've been married for over 30 years. My wife's name's Connie, and we have two children. Tyler, he's 27 years old, and Juliana, she's 23 years old. And we also have a fur baby. His name is Link. He's about 75 pounds fur baby.
What kind of fur baby is that?
He's a mix. He has, let's see, he has husky in him. He has, I think, Doberman in him. He's a little mixed bag. Well, I have two separate, stories, honestly, because
Right,
I survived cardiac arrest twice.
right.
So, prior to, it was a weekend on that Friday prior to the Sunday, which had happened, my wife and I, we visited Atlantic City, New Jersey, and it was our engagement anniversary. So we were there for the weekend and, going out to dinner and having some fun. And then we just came home on that Sunday, did what you normally do, put your stuff away, clean up. And then we had dinner and dessert. And then we were planning to go watch watch TV in the bedroom. And like she was in the bedroom, I came in there after getting a glass of water. And because my stomach wasn't feeling so well, so I thought it might have been something I ate. I sat on the bed, and the last thing I remember is I told my wife, I said, Connie, I don't feel good. And that's the last thing I remember. So then what happened, what she told me was I fell over on the bed in a fetal position, and she knew right away I wasn't breathing. So
Mm.
then she yelled to our son, his name's Tyler, as I mentioned, and he was watching TV in our living room, and she said, call 911, Daddy's not breathing. So he called 911 and then gave her the phone, and he started giving me CPR right away. And then my daughter got the phone from my wife and was talking with the 911 operator. And then they moved me from my bed to the floor because you got to get proper compressions. And that's, I was receiving CPR from him. My wife was guiding him as well. And then the police came. The police in my town carry an AED machine. I was hooked up to the AED machine. So I went out. I had my cardiac arrest at 8:08 p.m. And then I was connected to the machine. And after one shock, and I was back to life at 8:17. Then the paramedics came and took me to the hospital. And then I was in the hospital for 6 days. And that was, I left May 13th. So that's my first one. Want me to go
Right.
second one?
So when did your first one happen?
May 7th, 2023. It was a Sunday. Sunday
Okay.
evening.
Okay, so so then yes, now go into the second one.
Right. So basically, I got out of the hospital the following Saturday. So normally you have a 2-week follow-up appointment, but I chose to move my appointment up because I had a load of questions for my cardiologist. So I was lucky enough to get a Tuesday appointment. Who knew that I needed to have that appointment that day? Let me explain. So it was late afternoon appointment. My wife and I were going to the cardiologist, got to the office, went in the room. I got my heart rate, taken. It was 148 beats per minute. And I was just sitting down. And at that point, it should be like 60, 70, 80 maybe. So it was in bad, something was going on. So what happened was he gave me some medication through an IV to try to correct that.
Mm-hmm.
It actually got worse. It went up to 153 beats per minute.
Mm.
He said, not unfortunately, he said, Rob, you have to go back to the hospital. An ambulance came, picked me, brought me back to the hospital. In the ER, they gave me an assortment of medicines trying to break that, heart rate. It was still high. And at the same time, my blood pressure was going low. So the electrocardioversion, that happened twice. That's basically getting shocked on purpose to try to reset your heart rhythm. Unfortunately, didn't work. You know, so then that was the following day. It came back on its own, regular heartbeat and regular blood pressure. So then on May 18th, so this was went back to the hospital on the 16th. On May 18th, I was scheduled to have a cardiac MRI. I was in, this was a night scan. So I was in the machine for about an hour and a half. I came out, during the MRI, they took me out because my heart rate increased. So they just wanted to make sure I was okay. Then I got put back in, finished it. I was put in a wheelchair and I was going to be, brought back to my room. But then I felt like my heart was racing and I was having like a anxiety attack. I looked at the remote monitor. On the remote monitor, my heart rate was, what was it again? 264 beats per minute. And when I saw that number, I said to myself, I'm in trouble. And that was the last thing I remembered. So the rest was told to me from, told my wife from the nurse. But then the nurse who was with me gave me CPR. So I went out at 10:30 that night. I received CPR. I received a shock from an AED machine, and I came back at 10:34. So then they put me under sedation. I was intubated, and I was put into a coma for the next 24 hours. And then I was released a few days later after receiving an ICD.
Wow. So in 1 month, you have two different sudden cardiac arrest stories,
Yeah.
two different nurses, two different rescue teams, two different AED stories.
Yeah.
Wow, Rob, that is amazing.
Yeah, I'm truly blessed to be here. I've been always active. I've been a gym rat in a way since I was 20. So this happened when I was 53. Yeah, I wasn't as active in the gym as I was in my 20s and 30s, but I was still, active. Ate, I thought at that time pretty well, pretty clean. But though in the last 6 years, I was on cholesterol lowering medicine because my numbers when I got my physicals done were a little high. And then, they were thinking it might be my diet, but it might be, genetics. So this happened in 23. In 2021, I did a stress test because in one of my physicals, my primary doctor, thought she saw a blip. So it's just like, oh, go do a stress test to make sure everything was all right. I did it and without issue. And that was it. So I had no any indicators that something was coming. The only thing that day, and I thought it was an anxiety issue, was like when I was in Atlantic City, like I felt like my heart was racing, very anxious feeling. But then I went and sat down and relaxed, and everything was normal. And I walked around that day, and no other issues until what happened that night. Yeah, he was, the hands that pushed, and there was, he is studying right now to be a nurse. But when he was in community college, he took a CPR course just to get a credit. So, that was like multiple years prior to, so, what's good is, my wife was there, giving him help and support as well. And then, the 911 operator gives you instructions as well. And, because they can tell and teach a person how to do it as an emergency until a first responder, arrives. So, it's an amazing thing. And, I can never, thank my family enough for, you know, saving my life that night. Like I
And
mentioned, he took it in community college just to get a credit. And hey, that credit was really worth it.
Oh.
And again, like, I remember I've asked him because it was like, multiple years after. Uh, Off the top of my head, I'm going to guess like 4 years or more difference in timing. But, I guess it's somewhat second nature, but at the same time, it's help that, that others are giving as well. And, is passion and caring for, that's what he likes to do. That's why he's actually studying to be a nurse. And, that is, it's a great story he has to put on his resume. My first
Mhm.
year anniversary of my first cardiac arrest, my daughter made arrangements, and I had the EMTs and paramedic crew come to the home, and we all sat on my deck, and we all, in a way, broke bread. We had some food brought there for him, and I got to share my appreciation, to them. And they were told me this almost never happens. Like, they don't know what happens to the person that they, save, not, save, or, the call to. Like, usually, okay, put them at the hospital, and you don't know thereafter. Uh, what happened was, it's an interesting story that I felt like the first time I was in the hospital, they treated me like I had a heart attack. It was found that I had 5 blockages, 4 on the left, 1 on the right. So I had, stents put in
Mhm.
because I had blockages in my arteries. And then, when I was treated and I was left, 6 days later, I was on some medications, but not turning out to be all the medications, because the reason on, a few days later, I had to go back to the hospital was it turned out I was having arrhythmias. And that turned out to be caused by a disease called cardiac sarcoidosis,
Mm.
which enlarged my heart. So with the inflammation in my heart, that caused arrhythmias, which caused the heart rate to sky higher, and that's what caused my cardiac arrests. So I was they installed, it's a dual, it's an AED, excuse me, it's a CRTD. So that's a pacemaker and an ICD, and in me, and I have like 3 leads that go into my heart, and I could get paced if necessary and get shocked if necessary. So that's part of my treatment, as well as the cardiac sarcoidosis is not active any longer because I did a 6 month run of taking like high doses of steroids, and that made the inflammation go away. My first visit, I called in the hospital. That night I was joking around and I wanted to go home, and so I can go to work and I can go to the gym and then go to work in the morning. I didn't fully understand at that point what happened to me. The second time in the hospital, I knew what happened to me, and then that scared me greatly. And that, after I, survived, but I was scared that it was going to happen again, because, and because it happened now twice, right? And part of my recovery, luckily, started at the hospital, my last day of departure, because of my wife suggesting to the nurse that I see someone from the psychology department. Just like, okay. So I spoke with like somebody that was in charge, and they said, you most likely have PTSD. And also, you might also have PICS. PICS is something new that it's similar to PTSD, but it's post intensive care syndrome. And it's for people that stay in ICU and that are connected to like ventilators. It's just basically all trauma problems. So the person that was in charge of that department, advised me I should go speak with a therapist. And then after I got home, I really didn't think I needed it. But, you know, I started having some panic attacks and panic feelings. I was scared of my heart rate. because I thought if my heart rate went up to like 100, I'm going back to the hospital. And that's normal. But at that time, I didn't feel that and I didn't know that. So I needed, besides a physical, like, because when I got out of the hospital, I could only walk for 6 minutes without being exhausted. So I learned and I dedicated, hey, I'm going to do like an extra 2 minutes a day walking until I built it up to an hour. So I felt I can get back physically, and I did. It took me like 5 months, but I got back to my normal self. But mentally was my biggest challenge because I didn't know how to fix myself. So with the help of my family and their support, I went and saw a therapist. I learned about meditation, about doing things to help my mental health so I wouldn't be scared, like dealing with these trauma. And that took, still to this day, I still have to work on it. But, I did therapy for a year. I journaled, I wrote like an 11-page, time from what happened just so it would help me get it out of my head is one of the things that help. I learned to do yoga, which is actually helps your physical and mental health. Aromatherapy, exposure therapy was really important because in the beginning, for months, I didn't want to leave my house. That was my safe place, right? But then, I had to go to the store, and that was a problem. But then as you start doing things more and more, you're exposed to it and you feel better. And then with my therapist, we did cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, and that helped as well. And then one of the last things we did, but it's been expanded, and this is how me and you meet, is a Facebook group was started, and it's sudden cardiac arrest mental health, sudden cardiac arrest survivor mental health awareness, and that's the group that I started about almost 2 years ago, and it's been growing since. And the focus of the group is to help people that deal with mental health challenges, either from cardiac arrest or just any mental health challenge. But that's one of the biggest things that aren't discussed for survivors, co-survivors, rescuers, doctors, nurses, that you go through a lot. And that's what, part of this page is for, to like be there to support one another, to help each other out, to share basic ideas, to try to help one another. And, that's basically it. So thank you for letting me share that.
Thanks again for listening. If you or anyone you know needs to learn CPR, first aid, or a life-saving skill, please contact People's Choice CPR and Safety. From CPR to self-care, the Wellness Pulse is staying in rhythm with your well-being. I'm Monica Stevens. Take care.